2018 NBA season with availability with our president, Phil Jackson, general manager, Steve Mills, and head coach, Derek Fisher. We're going to start off with an opening statement from Phil Jackson.
Well, all you returning veterans, thanks for coming out. Newbies that came up, appreciate you showing up today. I think any respite from New York City must be welcome today, right? We feel really good about our summer, how we approached the draft, the free agency. Many of you have covered that, and we've talked ad infinitum about all the things that we've done over the summer. What we are happy about is that we have a group of guys that seem to want to work together, that seem to want to play together. We haven't had to encourage guys to show up here at our training facility this summer. They come and they're working hard, and they seem to respond very well to playing together and each other. We look forward to our camp coming up this next Monday. West Point is a place that we kind of initiated last year as a training site. We had a short stay last year because of a football game that happened on a Saturday. This year we have a little longer stay, and we hope that we can use the facility and their place to our best efforts. Derek and I and the coaching staff had an opportunity to sit down in September and talk quite a bit about the personnel and about our plans for the season. We feel like we have returning veterans that wanted to work and play and be together. We brought back guys that worked well together in the system. We brought in guys that have veteran experience. We anticipate that it's going to take a while for any team to play together, especially as basketball's the most complicated game as far as teamwork goes. But we hope that will be expedited by our training season, our exhibition games. The last note, we look forward to a quicker start than we had last year, although we won a couple games early on last year. We hope to do a little better this year to start the season. And we have a less of a pressured schedule because we don't have the London trip, we don't have the All-Star game, and it makes for an easier schedule for us this year, and we hope to get off to a good start.
All right, thank you, Phil. We're now going to start our questions and answer period. Raise your hand, wait for the microphone to come around, and please identify yourself so we know who you are. First question is Brian Mahoney.
Brian Mahoney, Associated Press. Phil, just kind of building off that with so many new players, how quickly do you believe a team can get up to speed with that many changes and pieces you've added this summer?
Well, I think the biggest effort, and Derek, will vouch for this, is finishing games probably at the beginning. How to finish games, how to make it critical in the fourth quarter. Last year, I think we had 17 of our first 24 games are all decided really within the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, which says a lot about learning to play together and learning how to play together at the end of the game. But we feel that, these guys have kind of worked things out as they've been going through this last session of time when they've been together. They probably have an idea of the pecking order and how things go, and we'll expedite that as we go.
Ian Begley, ESPN.com. Phil, last year around this time, you said that you thought the team could compete for a playoff spot. What do you think are fair expectations for this team?
Well, looking at the Eastern Conference last year, we anticipated there were going to be a couple teams that wouldn't play 500. We thought our team, if they could play up to the level they played the year before, could do that. I think we had 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, Indiana and Boston, that played a season that was not over 500. They were under 500. So, I want to stay away from expectations. It's such a long season. We want to talk about competitiveness, about home court advantage. And I think Derek should probably weigh in on that question a little bit too, because he's got a feel for these guys as he goes through this training camp and figure that out.
I mean, you didn't ask the question. You kind of,
What do you think of expectations there?
no, I think that Phil is correct in the sense that, I think last year we did try to predict, in a sense, how a team would do over the course of a long NBA season. And it's really impossible to do that. We couldn't have foreseen the amount of injuries and changes that took place with our team. So I think for us right now, it's more about the process, and focusing on building the daily habits that are required to be a really good team. And that's really all we can do, it's one day at a time, get the most out of who we are. We feel like we have a group of guys that are interested in doing that. And, it's my job to lead them in the right direction along with our staff. And that's pretty much our focus.
And I'll just add to that, I think the guys themselves have demonstrated that they have that kind of approach because, when 7 guys make a decision to go down to Puerto Rico for Carmelo's charity event and go a week early just so they can work together, and the number of guys, when you have anywhere from 12 to 18 guys up here working together on their own, I think that demonstrates that it's a group that understands what it takes to be a good team and want to do that kind of stuff together.
Atlanta Zone Newsday, Phil, Derek, what have you guys seen from Carmelo so far, coming back from the surgery and some of the things he's done, like Steve talked about, guys are working out together. Have you seen a different commitment than maybe last year or a different level of leadership? What have you seen?
I'm going to let Derek answer this question.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a different level of commitment. I just think that he's healthy. He feels good about his body and where he sees himself going. And I think although there were questions about what he thought about decisions being made over the offseason, I think he actually enjoys and likes working with these guys and being around them. And, health is an important thing to a pro athlete. And when you're healthy, your perspective changes on a lot of things. And I just think he's looking forward to having a really good season and, helping our team have a good season.
This is for anybody. Is Carmelo going to be limited at all coming off the surgery in camp, or is he a full go?
Medically speaking, I think he's a full go. I had conversations with doctors recently, so medically he'll be fine. I think we'll still gauge, how much we want to put him under in terms of workload and stress, in training camp and in the preseason. But we don't have to artificially, hold him back from working hard. We'll just have to kind of gauge how he's responding, to how hard we plan to work in training camp and just be smart along the way.
Steve Popper, Bergen Record. This is for Phil and Derek. Both you guys were last year first time in those roles. I guess, what do you take out of that first year, and did it change your approach this year, this summer, and this time this year?
I'll go first, Steve. Just say that I thought that maybe I stepped back too far last year. I wanted Derek to, be his own person and have his own feel for this. And I think that was multiplied in numbers of ways. But Derek's kind of asked me to be a little more present this year, actually. Not in the aspect of whatever coaching, but just in being around and talking basketball and influential, in observations. So I think I'll be probably even more involved than I was last year as far as just being here and being watchful, suggestive, watching film together maybe with Derek at times. The other side of the coin, in the administration role, Steve has done a lot of the administrating that's had to go with the Guard in the corporate world. I've had a great feel for the process of free agency and the anticipation of how to build a team. I think the orientation in the last year has been very good for me as far as dealing with agents, dealing with the people around players, the players themselves, and the new kind of attempt to build teams in the NBA. That's kind of the new mode of operations, actually.
Yeah, I mean, just to continue on what Phil is saying, I mean, we're all in this together, basically. And I do think there are times last year where, out of respect for each other's titles, as we learned how to operate from player coach to president, head coach, kind of not wanting to bother each other or overload each other with too much information and conversation. And I think over the course of this offseason, not just Phil and I, but also Steve, just as a group in terms of management and decision making, and making sure that we're communicating often about several different areas, that revolve around our team. We feel like we found a better rhythm. And then in terms of the basketball piece, I'm the head coach of the team. I'll lead the team. I'll do what I need to do to get the job done. But for sure, looking forward to spending more time away from the team, talking basketball, talking shop, learning from one of the great basketball minds that we've ever seen.
Tim Bontemps from the New York Post. This is for both Phil and Derek. What have you thought of the way Porzingis has developed this summer in terms of getting stronger and being in the gym, and what are your expectations for him for this season?
Maturation is its own developer. One thing I can share with you is my conversation with Pau Gasol before he headed off to Europe for the summer. He said, don't worry so much about the weight. I was 227 pounds when I started playing in the NBA. And he said, I think he's 255 or something now. And he said, he'll grow into his body. We've tried to expedite that, and he's been very receptive to the work that it takes to become an NBA player, strength training, trying to bulk up and do all those things. There's only so much we can do, and maturation has to do the rest of it. And we understand that he's still probably going to grow for the next 5 years as a human being, maturing into his body. So we're trying to allow that process to go, but expedite what he can get done on his own. And he's a very willing participant in that. So we're very pleased with his attitude, the way he approaches work, his appetite for it. And the rest is about now on the court experiencing how to play and how to get around the game.
Yeah, I think in similar fashion. I mean, with Chris Stapps, we're not trying to reinvent who he is and how he's constructed. He wants to work. He wants to get better. He wants to be here in New York City and a part of what we're doing. So, we don't have to ask him to do anything. He's essentially the first one here every morning, 7:30 a.m. He's beat me here a couple times in the last couple weeks, and we think he's going to be fine. We don't have to force his development. He's comfortable on the floor, and we're not going to place undue expectation on him just because of what number he was drafted. This is a long-term process, and we think he'll be fine for now as well, though.
Steve also went down to Puerto Rico with those guys and had an opportunity to be around Chris in a comfortable situation.
Yeah, no, he's actually, I think this is a great situation for him, and playing for someone like Fish. I had a time to talk to Kristaps and his brother and spend some time with him, and I just think his approach to how he works and how he wants to get better complements or is similar to the way Derek approached his career in terms of taking care of his body, willing to work, always wanting to do things to help get himself better. I mean, one day I went by and KP was in the hot tub and I saw him, in the cold plunge, and he was on his phone. And I said, went over to him to see what he was doing. He was watching Usain Bolt video on running techniques. I mean, he is that diligent in terms of trying to understand every aspect of his body, every aspect of getting better and stronger. And so he's a unique guy in that regard, and I think it will allow him to become the best player he can.
Chris Herring from the Wall Street Journal. Hi, guys. I guess I was curious about Carmelo, and we've talked before about position and what have you, and I think, Phil, we spoke in, I guess, April and or maybe before the draft, I can't remember, but you said that you thought that maybe he could play more four, but it would depend partially on who, whether you had a rim protector or not that you felt like could kind of cover for him back there. You guys got one over the summer, but at the same time, you guys now have a lot of guys that can play the 4 or the 5. Obviously, the draft pick being one of them, O'Quinn, and you've got Seraphin now. Do you really see a whole lot of opportunity for him to play 4 with how many guys you have there, and where do you see him fitting defensively?
That'll be determined as we go through this training camp and exhibition, preseason games, etc. But in imagining potential, our positions are basically interchangeable at the offensive end. And from that standpoint, a lot of how Carmelo's going to approach a game is who's going to guard him, and the matchups that go on in that process. One of our reasons with Derek Williams was the fact that here's a guy 6'8" who can play 3s, 4s interchangeably, and has the speed and activity to play with or for Carmelo in many situations. So we thought he would fill a gap for us a lot. We haven't determined as far as our post positions and our center position, Kyle or Kevin Seraphin's roles exactly, or Chris's role as far as where he's going to play. That's the function of how we want to play as a team, is that we have so many interchangeable positions that we can use players in multiple spots. The big key is about defending, and that's what it really comes down to. How are we going to defend as a basketball team? And that's a challenge for Carmelo and for all our players to meet.
Do you have a sense of how you would view that? I guess last year, statistically, you guys seemed to struggle a lot more, specifically defending the three-point line and all that was on the court. Do you see that as maybe something that was just his need for that one season, or do you see it as long-term that you'd like him to play on the court?
From some point in the first 2 weeks of the season, we saw the limitations, Carmelo, in his activity level. And I had a conversation with him, very early in the season, and talked about activity and, the necessity of how active a team has to be. And then we understood the limitations that he had, obviously. So, our hopes are that those things are remedied, and it can, we can increase our activity level as a defensive team. And I have every confidence that this crack staff that we have is going to find a way to make him the best player he can possibly be in this system.
My last question on that, I mean to belabor it. We've asked him about it here and there. Do you get a sense from him whether, most guys just view themselves as basketball players. Do you get a sense from him whether he prefers one position over the other, whether it be on offense or defense?
Derek?
No, I don't get a sense that he prefers any particular position. I think he loves to be on the floor. He loves to compete. And, any issues or all of the issues we had defensively have very little to do with whether his knee was healthy. We just weren't a good defensive team for many reasons. I don't think it's based around which position he plays in terms of how good or not we can be defensively as a team. There's 5 guys out there, and it's up to those 5 guys to get the job done.
Phil, Youngmasuk, ESPN.com. As far as your vision for rebuilding this team in a championship contender that you had hoped for when you came, do we kind of have to wait until after next summer's free agency to kind of see this team become more complete of who you guys can get to that level of being a championship contender?
It's just too much between then and now. or now and then that goes along. There's just a whole season to go through. Teams develop rapidly. I've seen multiple teams in the NBA over the years that have had this chemistry that just brings them together. And that's what we're looking for, is to find guys that have a chemistry that activates them as players and their team effort together. So we're not going to hold anything out about this year or next year. We're going to continue to try and bring the best talent here to Madison Square Garden and the New York Knicks. So that goes kind of unstated.
When you guys all discussed maybe Phil being around more and having Phil to talk to more often, were there specific things you thought maybe last year you missed an opportunity where Phil could have helped on that, or things maybe you thought you would have helped? And just how kind of did you arrive at that decision that this was something you wanted to do this year?
I don't know what Phil was talking about when he said he needed to be around more. Maybe talk to Derek more, but he was here all the time. So there wasn't an issue about how often he was here. So he was here all season and every day up here, other than a couple of weeks in the middle of the year. So I think it's more of an issue about how much time he spent talking to Derek regarding coaching.
A lot of it post-game film work. That's an issue where a coach may want to be together with his staff and talking about, what we have to get done and what we didn't get done. And, I usually stick my nose in there for a couple minutes and say, how'd that play go at the end of the third quarter that kind of got squelched or didn't work right, or what happened at the end of the game? Was that a bad call? But I didn't really sit with the coaching staff or with Derek and, look at a game from beginning to end, that type of thing. That's been my protocol as a coach. And, I'm not going to say that I'm going to do that all the time, but there are going to be times that we're going to do that, because Derek's kind of insinuated to me over the summer that it'd be nice to have a little bit of that conversation as we go through this year. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I think that's probably where I stepped back farther than any other place last year, allowed the staff to work on its own, in its own level.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Brian, it's more, from a one-on-one standpoint of, finding how to structure my days as a coach and where the time is going to be invested in preparing the team to play, post-game, learning from situations and watching film. And so I just feel like it would be helpful to be able to do more one-on-one discussion of specific things that are going on with our team, as opposed to knowing that he's sitting on the other side of the building and has seen more basketball, than I've seen in my entire lifetime, and not utilizing that resource to help myself and help our team. I think, like I said, we're finding kind of the rhythm to that. And I thought Phil was amazing last year in giving me the space to kind of learn the ropes, in a sense. Where will my time be spent? And I have a much better feel for that. And so we just want to make sure we're carving out time where we can talk man to man and, in a sense, coach to coach, and really make sure our team's heading in the right direction.
Steve Popper again. Phil, last year, even with the one big Tyson trade, you inherited a lot of guys on that roster. Does it feel different this year? Does it feel like this is more your team, or the kind of team you want to have?
I'm trying to remember, how many guys do we have from the original group that from a year ago, last March? Carmelo? Does that say something to you? Some of them by vocational change. Smitty went on, he got a big contract, and, some things happen, guys that we like and stuff, and other things we thought players would perform better other places. So we made changes. But this does feel like a group that's kind of been handpicked. Jerry and Grant, which we haven't talked about, I have a trouble. I think it's Jaren Grant. As somebody that, I've watched. I was, liked who he was fortunate enough to have a chance to make that move during the, first round. And, we had to give up a player we liked, Timmy. And we thought Timmy's got a good chance to be an NBA pro. But this is a player that is more in tune with how we want to play. Speed, guard skills, etc. So, we're fortunate enough in doing that. Seraphin was, really was out there, and we had an opportunity. The coaching staff came back to me and said, we really like this guy. Has not been picked up by anybody right now, and we think he can help our team. And, I made that move, and we made that move, Steve and I did, more at the behest of our coaching staff, who thought that he fit what we were trying to get done. So there have been a combination of both, our input individually and also the staff's input as to what would work with what we did. Sasha Vujicic, for example, has been, bounced around a little bit since the championships that we, Fish was a teammate of, and I was a coach of. Sasha, he was a player that played critical moments for us and has a real understanding of what we try to get accomplished. He has the energy and the grit that we like about, his game, that can bring the activity level up in many assets or many facets of our game. So, those are additions that may not jump out, but they make really good sense. And response to a combination about where Carmelo plays, one of the reasons why we really thought Robin would be the best fit for us as a center was that it would allow us to be more flexible as a team, and Carmelo could play more of a 4 in that regard, as opposed to maybe a Greg Monroe, who's not the same size, not the same defensive player. So those are some of the things that fit together in the puzzle that makes us think that this team has got a chance to be really pretty good team defensively, particularly because some of the things we wanted, Aaron Aflalo's another player that we thought defensively and maturity-wise can help this team grow.
Derek, also, does it fit more with what you talked last year about defense so much? Does this feel like a move that fits what you want to do?
Well, I mean, I think it's about people, essentially. And I know a lot of focus is on talent. And, here being in New York, the name of that talent. And, I just thought that we all kind of decided we find the right people for what we're trying to do as opposed to, just the name of the person. And, we like the decisions that we made. Obviously, it's a results-oriented business. So, until we win some games, none of it makes sense. And that's our job to figure that out.
Derek, we always ask players around this time of year, what did you do in the off season to improve? What did you work on? As a coach, what were you working on over the summer to improve? Maybe things that you did last season that you wanted to tweak?
Probably just my beard so that my smile could hide even more. That was probably the main thing I focused on.
Looks rough.
Yeah.
Can look mean at those referees when they make a bad call.
No, other than that, I mean, I'm learning everything. I can't pretend that I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm a learner.
One of the things that Derek did is he wanted to coach in the summer league, which is not really a natural response for a lot of head coaches there. They'd like to maybe have a break and not be there, but he wanted to get another feel for that, and I think that impressed me that he felt the presence of wanting to do that and continue dialing up the competitive level for coaching. I like that.
Yeah, the main thing is, honestly, along with that is to continue to kind of chip away at you know, learning from others and the way the position is supposed to be handled or managed, and really getting closer to my vision and what it is that I want for my team as the head coach. That's really where most of the work was spent. And so I'm closer to that. I'm getting more comfortable and confident with doing things and handling things in a way that's true and authentic to me, because that's the only way it can be. Whether or not I keep the job, don't keep the job, it has to be done the way that I see fit. You can't live life or coach a team, you know, based on what everybody else thinks you should be doing. I don't think the best coaches are able to get the job done if they do that.
And I was impressed. I spent a lot of time with Fish this summer, and there are times I'd go in the office and he's sitting watching videotape or reading, and we talk a lot, and he'd talk about the way Tex Winters coached and how Phil took his ideas and how they evolved, and how he thought, how should he look at all these things in the offense, and how you play defensively, and how that should evolve around what he wants to try to accomplish as a coach his way. So I think he spent a lot of time, and I was impressed as he was sort of goes through that process of trying to figure out ways to get better as we move into this season.
Phil, I was gonna ask you along that theme, with all your experience, and when you hired Derek, what was your vision of how you would see him evolve going to year two? What might be his biggest challenge this season after everything he went through in his first year?
Well, Derek is a detail-oriented person who, as a player, was willing to sacrifice his own game for the betterment of a team, and yet was willing to stand up, take responsibility at end-game situations, had a good voice as a team leader, and I think all those things related well to the job that he's now attempting to do. I felt that because he played the game for 25 years, college, pro, that he has a great feel for it as far as from the aspect of how to play and what it takes to play. And I think that a lot of times goes a long ways with NBA players. They respect someone that's been on the battlefield with them or on the floor and know what they're going through. His challenge this year is how to use the personnel. It's always a coach's challenge, is how to maximize everybody's effort. There's the Casey Stengel approach to basketball. Anybody know what that is? No. Well, you can keep about 12 guys happy, and the other 3 guys are on the team. You don't want them to join together to mutiny against you. The idea of a coach is to be able to use 10, 11, whatever that maximum number is that you feel comfortable with, to the best of their ability, and have the other players that are there still pulling for the team. They're still willing to let other people go out there and play the game, even though they may not be getting the same amount of time. And a coach does that by engaging his team, engaging his players, so that they're willing to commit a lot of their ego-driven relationship to this job, to the effort of a team, to the effort of the group. And that challenge is always, every year, every week, every whatever, is always that stress point for a coach, because he feels the pull of those players that are down there in the bench, or those players that are out there on the floor wanting more, wanting help, wanting to be the best they can be. And so that's the challenges of coaching. The day-to-day effort of dealing with losses is also a major drain on your energy, because you're always going backwards, thinking about what could have been done better. And a lot of times you have to be forward-looking in this game rather than looking backwards. And then dealing with you guys, the press and the naysayers, critical comments. is always difficult for any coach, any organizations to go through. You have to become like a duck. You're immune to it. The water just, and the criticism just falls out of it. And that's really an important aspect of being able to do this job the best you can do.
Yeah, Derek, Tom Hummer from Long Island Dispatch. How disappointing was it to you when your team fell to the 4th spot in the graph?
I like the number 4 personally. Award in high school, award in college. I was the 24th pick in the first draft, in the first round. No, I mean, how can you be disappointed that you're going to get, you know, a top 5 pick in the NBA draft? And, you know, there have been guys at every number that have proven to be great and proven not to be so great. And so I didn't feel that, you know, I did us not so much of a favor by trying to encourage our team to win games late in last season's kind of final stretch. I don't think that necessarily doomed us. And, you know, ultimately, Chris Stapps will, you know, be the biggest, I guess, proof of whether the pick was great or not. But I was fine with it. I was okay.
Next question.
Spencer Julian, MSG Network. Derek, when you look at the team behind Carmelo, are you going to be asking more of some of these players to pick up the slack on the offensive end and maybe a little bit more than they've done in their career, being relied upon to put the ball in the bucket a little bit more?
No, I don't think it's a scoring thing per se. I mean, Carmelo is obviously an elite scorer and an elite player, but I'm not really fixated on, you know, we need a second guy or a third guy to average a certain amount of points to then say that, you know, we have a better chance of winning. Aaron Aflalo has been a guy that's been a consistent scorer on many teams that he's played on. Jose is a guy that shoots great percentages, and we'll be continuing to encourage him to shoot the ball more as he stays healthy. You know, we have a number of guys that can put the ball in the basket. That'll be the easy part. Defense is where you win. And so if we don't slide up in a major way on the defensive end, you know, then it's kind of all for naught. And so we want to obviously score more, want to play better offensively. We feel like we'll be able to do that. These guys in these scrimmages and pickup games that they're playing, we won't have a problem scoring. But can we stop people? Can we utilize the size and versatility of our team to get stops on the defensive end?
I guess I'm curious, both of Phil and Derek. You look at this team, especially after the year Atlanta just had, where a lot of people said there was no individual star player. But Phil, with some of the teams you coached in Chicago and LA, what are some of the benefits to, obviously, the obvious benefits of having a couple of stars, but what sorts of benefits do you feel like there are in having a team where it is more of a team approach, where you feel like you need something from every guy? And do you see that potential in this team?
I can't relate to that. I guess because I've been blessed with having such great players as a coach. There were a couple teams that you know, had the, you know, developmental players coming along. You know, Pippen and the Grant in the early time when, you know, Michael Jordan went off to play baseball. You know, there have been a few instances like that, but I've always had that fortune of having pretty great scorers on the team. The aspect of playing in a balanced group goes back to my playing days. The Knickerbocker team that I played on, I think we had 7 guys in double figures, and the ball averaged the most at 19 points a game. So that kind of tells you 7 guys scoring in double figures, what the team really was built around. So I grew up playing basketball in that kind of a group of players where there are multiple scorers and guys that just did their job. We're playing in a day and age a lot where players, when they get hot, they get the ball every time down the court. And that just wasn't the way I grew up playing ball. It wasn't quite like that. There were a couple times in playoff games, I remember Walt Frazier having, you know, a number where he could get, you know, 12, 14 points in a quarter. But that wasn't the way we played basketball. So it was everybody's determination. Many times come to the bench and Red Holzman would ask, what do you guys want to run? And they'd say, DeBuscher's got a guy on him and he's not adept at outside, playing outside. Let's take it to that, So there was a really consensus among the players as to how to get this job accomplished. We haven't had those kind of players in this age of basketball where they want to, a lot of it's about the coach calling the number. We want to develop a team where they want to be able to say, we think as a group, this is where we want to go. And that's when a team has parity and balance. And I think that's a real important part.
Any other questions?
It's not the Knicks, but it's going to be a very big topic around the NBA this season. Is this Kobe's last year? Have you guys talked to him at all, or do you have any kind of gut feel from being around him all these years?
Gut feel for whether or not it's his last year?
Yeah.
I don't think it's his last year. It sounds like it may be his last year as a Laker, but I mean, that's kind of what came out of there. But well, one of the things about great players, and there's a part of me that kind of wishes maybe Michael Jordan had said goodbye to basketball after that shot in Utah. But you see the game, and the speed of the game becomes something that you're used to, and you can handle the activity, speed, how many things are coming at you at once, but your body fails you. And that's the denominator there. It's kind of a comeuppance from God or from age. So with Kobe, he's had 2 seasons that have been aborted because of injuries. I think he's going to be really better than people think, and I think there'll still be a future for him as he goes through this season into next year, where people are going to ask, "Do you still want to play basketball?" And so we'll see how it goes. It's a long season, but I've sent a message to him that I'm wishing him great. I mean, he had a birthday just a month ago, and so that was, I don't know what 37 he is now.
Yeah.
There it is.
Age. That was fast. Yeah, that was fast. No, I don't. I just want him to be healthy, basically, and then go from there. So I personally wouldn't like this to be his last year playing basketball. I don't think that the game of basketball deserves for him not to play.
This is way off topic, but there's a big event at the Garden tonight. I was curious if any of you guys plan to swing by.
I think Steve's going. Are you
No, I was thinking about it, but I'm staying away. I'll watch on TV.
I think it's a long commitment. But, I think it's probably about 6 hours of time, isn't it, if you go?
You guys didn't put any special requests in? Well wishes for the season.
Bless the garden. Yeah. Very true. No, it's a wonderful occasion for the city and for the country, and Pontiff bringing peace, goodwill. Nothing could be better.
All right, well, thanks very much for coming. As a reminder, Monday is Media Day. Be here by 10:30. 10:30, right in this very
Thanks
spot.
again, guys, for coming
Thank
out
you.
and belaboring this. Proof in the pudding.